Lesson 12. Self-consciousness is that quality of your mind which enables you to be conscious of every thought of your own, of every feeling and action of the world within, and also of the world without. It is the point toward which all the numberless unassorted elements that go to make up your active life converge, there to be spun out into the compact fabric of your actual existence. Accordingly, it is one of your most precious mental possessions, the sayat of your conscious being. To be conscious of something means not only to be aware of it, but to understand it, appreciate it, and know just how to integrate it with other things in order to get the most effective results. You are fully conscious of only a very few of the vast flood of impressions you receive. The rest, slipping past below the level of your perception, are practically non-existent to you. Even the virgin treasures of your superconsciousness and the great stores of human knowledge in your subconscious field are useful to you only as they are tapped by your conscious self. So your limited conscious capacity prevents you from turning more than the smallest part of them into the minted coin of real fact. 3 supremely important conscious faculties form the machinery by which thought stream is partly turned to your account. Foremost among them is reason, which selects and arranges in the most effective order what you need to meet the demands of your life. Through it you assort and analyze things with relation to themselves and to other things also, and from that analysis you draw logical conclusions. Thus you orient your individual thoughts and make them complete yet harmoniously associated units. Your will, the second of your conscious trinity, is the motive power whereby you drive into active and compelling expression amid the expressed thought of humanity those mental projectiles which your reason has made ready. Once launched at the impulse of your will, they will bring a just return according to their force and merit. But whether your profit will be great or little depends upon how well your third chief conscious faculty has functioned. Common sense, that last and rarest of your conscious gifts, is the ability to see things in their true light and to judge them as they are, instead of as they seem to be. In other words, it is the faculty whose use determines the worth of the thoughts you employ as tools to help you live and progress. When common sense is well represented in you, the mental tools you fashion are of sound metal, well-tempered, evenly balanced and without alloy. You can depend on them to do fine work for you. When it is absent, you find your mental instruments crumbling impotently against the rocky face of circumstances, and you have to be content with the correspondingly poor impressions you are able to make in this world. These 3, reason, will and common sense, therefore form the working mechanism through which your self-consciousness puts its qualities forth into expression. The first arms you to meet the future, the second provides the strength to drive your weapons, and the third determines how deeply they will bite. When properly exercised, they enable you to handle your own thoughts in accordance with the mental laws in such a way as to make them powerful, efficient and docile instruments in your hands. The aggressive character of these 3 conscious faculties, always thrusting everything into manifestation and retaining nothing long, marks self-consciousness as the part of the mind trinity which is of the male gender, in contrast to the passive, receptive, and generative subconscious aspect, which is of the female gender. Your brain, with all its various lobes, convolutions, centers and cells, all of which correspond to the conscious qualities of which they are the embodiment, is the complex physical apparatus built by your self-consciousness for its own expression. Just as that conscious self knits all its activities into a one-pointed scheme of action whose purpose is rational expression, so all units of the brain system tend toward the organ in it which represents the same purpose. This organ is the pituitary body, or, as was explained in Lesson 10, the telepathic apparatus, which radiates thought vibrations from within and registers thought vibrations from without, making the brain a mental radio station. The pituitary body is thus the channel through which the product of your conscious faculties emerges into active expression. The concentration exercise given you in Lesson 10 taught you how to modify the form of that telepathic apparatus by willpower in such a way as to gather your thought vibrations into a single intense ray, instead of allowing all their force to be wasted through diffusion. Now the action of the thought so concentrated will be explained to you. 3 distinct phases mark the progress of the concentrated thought. From the moment of its conception in you, it proceeds in obedience to exact mental laws. Over those laws you have no control whatever. They are as impersonal as the planets in their operation. But during the first phase of their activity, you are able to control the kind of thought you intend to submit to their influence. This first phase relates primarily to the individual who sends out the concentrated thought, before that thought leaves his telepathic apparatus. His function is to concentrate on the subject he wishes to convey, hold it steadily before his mental eye, and then inhale slowly and deeply. At the apex of that inhalation, he is to think quickly for a moment of the person to whom the thought is to be sent, and at that instant exhale, at the same time letting go the concentrated thought. The energy released will drive the thought vibrations from his pituitary body, along the connecting line established across space by the single quick thought of the one who is to receive it, so that they strike his telepathic apparatus and are registered there. In this process, obviously, the strength and nature of the concentrated thought depend upon the sender. You are able to decide whether the thought you let loose shall be one of hate, of love, of beauty, or of anything at all, positive or negative. Also, you generate the vibratory current which carries that thought, so you make it strong or weak according to your desire or ability to do so. For this reason, you have to guard against certain influences which can greatly diminish the power of your concentrated thought. If you permit fear or worry about results to enter your mind before you have projected the thought you are holding there, you spoil most of its effectiveness. Fear is a negative condition which contracts the brain cells and cripples their activity. So naturally, the strength of the mental current you send out will be cut down in proportion as those channels shrink. After you have projected your thought, fear or worry have no power to influence it further. Once it leaves your pituitary body, it is gone beyond recall. No amount of wishing, hoping, dreading or regretting will ever catch up with it, because thereafter it proceeds serenely in accordance with mental laws. It will fly on its appointed course as inevitably as a rifle bullet after the trigger has been pulled, or as the vibrations of a telegraphic message when it has sped from beneath the operator's key. Both the bullet and the message reach their destination, not because of any expectation of the one who released them that they would be received, but because he put them under the operation of immutable physical laws. And the strength of the impression they make at the other end is in exact proportion to the power of the charge behind them. Thus, the only way you can seriously detract from the effectiveness of your concentrated thought is by allowing negative emotions to clog the channels through which it must pass in you before it leaves you. No interval occurs between the sending and the receiving of your thought. For mental vibration, space does not exist. Therefore, its action is instantaneous. As soon as it leaves your mind, it is present in the mind of the other individual. The second phase in the procedure of this concentrated thought has to do with the individual who receives it. He also is powerless to exercise any control over it, except that if he is in a receptive mood, he may be able to perceive it consciously a little sooner. Irrespective of that, however, the concentrated thought will enter into him, and the mental vibrations, striking his pituitary body, will be conducted by way of the back part of his brain and the spinal cord to his solar plexus, or abdominal brain. Here the idea they embody will be registered in his subconsciousness, the strength of the impression it makes there depending on the strength of the vibratory current which produced it. There it takes root and grows, in obedience to the subconscious laws, until finally it reaches its conscious goal, persistently thrusting itself into the consciousness of the individual from below and from time to time reminding him of its presence. This subconscious activity of the concentrated thought finds also a reflection in the subconsciousness of the sender. When it is released, there is what might be termed a backfire which looses into the solar plexus of the sender the same vibratory impulse that is to be registered in the other individual, where it lodges and grows in precisely the same fashion. Sometimes you may wish to make your own subconsciousness the recipient of the full force of that concentrated thought, instead of another person outside. This you call memorizing, or learning by heart, and it is accomplished through exactly the same process as for projecting the thought. In this instance, however, your subconsciousness takes the place of another individual, and instead of projecting the thought, you inject it into your own self. At the height of your inhalation, think of that inner destination within you and, so to say, swallow the thought just before you start to exhale. Thus you put all the propulsive energy into sinking that thought into your subconscious self, rather than in driving it out into space. And with this added impetus, it makes so vivid an impression that it is always within the immediate reach of your conscious summons through memory. Finally, the third phase in the progress of the concentrated thought is its continued journey after passing through the subconsciousness and leaving a record of itself there. Those mental vibrations, once they have deposited an impression of themselves in the subconscious mental field, do not stop there. That is the goal to which you may have directed them, but after your purpose is accomplished, they nevertheless fly on into space in pursuit of the goal decreed for them by the mental laws which govern them. But before attaining that ultimate goal, they are destined to undergo a decided change. In hurtling out into space, they encounter the mental atmosphere which, as stated previously, surrounds the Earth just as does the physical one. That atmosphere is composed of the disintegrated thoughts of all thinking humanity, a vast cloud of thought dust hanging there and enveloping our planet. From this cloud, your concentrated thought, in its passage, attracts all the floating particles which are of a corresponding rate of vibration. The further it goes, the more of this loose matter clots about it, until after a time it has grown out of any semblance to its original self, like a snowball rolling down a long hill when the flakes are damp and adhesive. The significant feature of this activity of the concentrated thought is that it attracts only mental matter of a corresponding rate of vibration. Like attracts like. If the thought you discharge into that mental atmosphere is of a kindly and constructive nature, it will gather to it only similar positive thought matter during its passage. But all the negative thoughts of mankind are mingled with the positive in that cloud of thought dust also. So if you release a destructive and negative thought, you unleash a wrong which will grow into a monstrous avalanche of evil before its course is completed. The vital interest for you in this fact lies in the operation through mental laws of another physical law, expressed through the Earth's magnetic attraction, which governs the progress of your mental vibrations. This physical law, whether exerted on material bodies or on mental vibrations, tends to draw everything back to its point of origin. Therefore, the final goal of your concentrated thought is yourself. No matter how far into space it may proceed, it must return, like an ordinary projectile, to Earth. Because it is of such a subtle nature, the law governing it is able to achieve uninterrupted expression through it, and the thought you sent out returns unerringly to you, with all that it has acquired on the way. For this reason, you should be exceedingly careful of the kind of thoughts you project, because obviously, while you can discharge harmful and destructive thoughts against others, to do so is simply to sow the wind and reap the whirlwind. The measure of the injury you can do another individual in that way is negligible compared to the devastating boomerang of destruction which will rebound upon you. Similarly, if you send out thoughts of good, That good will return to you increased many times and will bear positive expression in your life. Before employing the concentrated thought, therefore, be sure you have a clear perspective of its advantages and its limitations. Remember that laws are greater than the individual. You can accommodate yourself to them, but you cannot bend them to your will. They see to it that nothing is lost in this world, and one of them, the law of compensation, working in this instance through the mental laws, ensures the certain return sooner or later of everything that has its source in you. You cannot compromise, escape or evade them, and you cannot influence them to deviate from their eternally established course. Laws are no respecters of person. What you start they will inevitably finish, but whether to your benefit or distress depends upon how astutely you have called them into play in the beginning. All abuse of these laws comes first from within your conscious self and produces a certain definite effect. Evil. Therefore evil, as was explained in Lesson 10, is born of conscious or unconscious opposition to the law, and it is not a cause. It is an effect only. What you call good is also an effect, brought about by attuning yourself to the law and working in harmony with it, so that you enlist all its irresistible power in your support. In that case it works constructively through you, building up the positive results which spell success. But in opposing yourself to the same law that, rightly applied, brought good, you pervert its operation so that it wreaks destruction through you and against you, creating evil. Your control over evil lies in the faculty alone responsible for it, self-consciousness. The laws themselves are totally beyond any influence of yours to change either their nature or the power they govern. Like the beams of the sun, those remain eternally the same. The only variety is in the results they produce through you. Your conscious state is the party-colored window through which they fall upon the floor of your temple of self, and the borrowed pattern they fling there is beautiful or grotesque, pleasing or horrible, merely as the aspect imparted to them by you is so. If you are one with them so that you transmit them pure and undefiled, which means also that you are one with their source, universal life energy, you enable them to write a positive history of development, success and happiness. If you are opposed to them, you simply throw before them the stained map of evil and trouble whose reflection vexes your life. Obviously, no neutrality is possible in your relations with these forces and laws. Separation means opposition, so you are definitely either with them or against them. They emerge through you either clean or dirty, because there is no good nor evil except as your conscious thinking self makes it so. Therefore in your self-consciousness resides the power to make your life harmonious or disharmonious, to transmute evil into good, by applying your conscious faculties intelligently to the task of cleaning that window in you. This process is called self-analysis, and it is essential for the proper conscious elimination of everything undesirable, as well as for the harmonious development of that which is constructive and useful. Without it, no permanent mental sanitation can be assured, because only through it you are able to banish the grime of negative intrusions which are always seeking to crust your conscious self and disrupt the nice balance of its proportions. Self-analysis first gives you a true perspective of yourself by uncovering your faults. The four main aspects of universal life energy, life, mind, truth and love, supply the basic plan on which any rightly organized life must be established. By turning every facet of your nature to this foursquare, you can easily note where it measures up to standard and where the corners fall short. The most thorough self-analysis, which means the most complete analysis of all these various facets, can be obtained by observing your reactions to other people. Each individual is different, and each therefore tests a different strain in your character. If an unusually successful person arouses in you a sour spirit of criticism, a sense of jealousy, then you know that you possess this negative trait in you. If the society of idlers makes you feel at ease, there is an element of laziness in your composition which responds to the same influence from outside. When the effect of still others is to stir up resentment and even hatred in you, there is hatred latent in your heart. Thus everyone is a tuning fork of a different pitch which will bring out the false note in you. When you have discovered all your shortcomings in this way, you have gained a capital point without which effective sanitation would be impossible. Your shortcomings are the items of immediate interest, because they are what must be handled first in weeding them out. And until you have learned to distinguish them through self-analysis, you cannot proceed with that weeding. The above process, then, puts you in a position to continue by revealing the flaws that have to be removed. In this further work of correcting your shortcomings, self-analysis also helps. Through it you are able to counteract the demand of the negative in you for expression by summoning up the positive instead. Whenever you feel the impulse to indulge some negative inner call, school yourself to bring out instead the exactly opposite and positive quality. In so doing, you lift the weight of wrong which seeks to drag that negative trait into expression, and by destroying its influence in your life, you restore the proper balance within you. Not only will self-analysis uncover the individual negative elements within you, but on the larger scale, it will show you just which part of your human trinity of body, mind, and soul is the dominating factors in your life. The being which is you is composed of those three main divisions, and the division marred by the least negative is the one to whose key your theme of existence is pitched. It corresponds most nearly with the foursquare of life, mind, truth, and love, being the part in which those qualities and their fullest expression, and indicates to you your task of developing to a corresponding strength the neglected corners in the other departments of your life. Also, it strikes out a vista of all those turbulent currents of evil in you and traces them back to their one vast common source: fear. Fear, the giant hand that grips your mind and warps it from the direct course, is a condition that exists and has its origin in mind alone. Moreover, it is not a natural or even an inherited condition, but one which is acquired separately by every individual. Experiments conducted recently in different scientific institutions in America and in other countries also have revealed the fact that children as well as animals are born absolutely fearless. Nothing is able to produce in them the reaction called fear except a sudden very loud sound, whose vibrations naturally hurt the auditory nerves. It is only later, after fear has been imposed upon them by maturer people in whom it is already present, that they acquire this negative condition which becomes their greatest handicap and the source of all their future troubles, barring them from health, success, and prosperity. Analysis of fear, its nature and causes, is one of the vital points in mental science, because in fear is comprehended the entire problem of all the negative. When you overcome that, you kill at a blow the hydra-headed monster which leers out in the 1,001 ills and diseases of body, mind, and emotions. All negative springs from fear. So when fear is eliminated, all its negative expressions vanish also. Fear as a sensation is a conscious or unconscious feeling of helplessness and lack of power in the presence of danger. It produces as a physical reaction a general closing up, contraction, and paralysis of all the nerves, cells, muscles, and tissues. The effect of that closing up of your physical channels is to deprive you of the use of the very instruments by which you should most successfully combat the menace that threatens you. That is, it deprives you of the use of your conscious faculties. Animals and plants do not possess the conscious faculties with which the human individual is endowed, so in their cases fear performs a definite service in protecting them from harm. A turtle, when scared, withdraws into its shell. So does a snail. A porcupine rolls itself into a spiked ball. With every animal or insect, the fear impulse to shrink and contract works automatically to bring out some protective device. Even some plants exhibit this unconscious fear reaction to a marked degree. The touch me not derives its name from it. A certain tropical bush is so sensitive to outside impressions, especially of a threatening nature, that a stone thrown at it from a distance causes it to close its leaves and shut down its branches like the ribs of an umbrella. It preserves this singular and uninviting attitude until the real or seeming danger has had time to depart, whereupon it resumes its former natural condition. But what is a great boon to an animal or a plant which has not the mental equipment to defend itself more effectively, is a decided disadvantage to a human being who has. Your first reaction to fear is that you cannot think. The contraction of the nerve passages in you pinches off your contact with your conscious faculties, reason, will, and common sense included. The result of this severed connection is that you are bereft of motion also, as the motor impulses which drive your body to coordinated and intelligent action come also from conscious self. The consequence of fear, then, is that you deliver yourself bound hand and foot to the very danger you wish to avoid. You are paralyzed mentally and physically, except when occasionally your dammed up energies burst out in a sudden explosion or in some violent and erratic behavior which only renders you more vulnerable. You have thrown away the conscious weapons by which you could conquer the obstacle that confronts you, and have abandoned yourself abjectly to the mercies of a power that is merciless. Fear. What, therefore, is the source of this fear? The cause of fear in most cases, especially with human beings, is ignorance, a thing which baffles your understanding, which looms up before you simply as an impenetrable mask hiding you know not what terrors behind it, produces in you that overpowering sense of inferiority and helplessness. It usually faces you down merely by the suggestion of what may be back of it, allowing your own imagination to help it defeat you. Or more rarely, your inferiority may be genuine, and your recognition of this constitutes your fear. The elimination of fear, then, is largely conditioned on the elimination of this shadow, from which it is spawned, ignorance. Like most vermin, fear thrives in darkness, sullying out to spread its blight in the path of ambitions, hopes, health, and friendships. Every positive quality is the potential victim of this creeping poison, which sows hatred, jealousy, distrust, anger, disease, every wrong and destructive element there is, physical, mental, and emotional, in order to bar you from those things that you want and to bring into your life those things that you do not want. It is the one monstrous genius of the negative which has retarded the whole of humanity's evolution, only because humanity has not taken the trouble to turn a little mental sunlight into the dark corners. Most of the methods devised for overcoming fear limit their scope to human powers within the individual and take for their vital principle the human will. Thereby they destroy their avowed purpose. For while the human will is an admirable weapon to turn against anything, it functions very largely as an arm to wield a weapon. Your will is the cutting edge of that composite tool of your conscious self, reason, will, and common sense. But the power that can drive that edge straight to the heart of the foe is something else entirely, and it cannot be left out. The effect of willpower used alone is the very reverse of what is expected. For willpower, like fear, tends to contract and close up by strain the nerve channels. Therefore, the application of willpower to overcome fear, while it may temporarily give you a false position of dominance, really aids fear all the time in closing up the already contracted channels in you still further. The more you use it, the more you chop away the slim prop by which it holds you up. And when you fall, it will be into a panic the more intense the more you tried by willpower to avoid it. Due also to this tendency to contract, Willpower must be held responsible together with fear for bringing into your life the very things you dread. Once a thought of fear enters into your subconsciousness, it shuts all the doors behind it. That is, the contraction produced in you by fear shuts the thought of fear securely in your subconscious mental field, shielding it from any blighting touch of the positive and affording it the most ideal conditions for growth and increase. Your use of will merely seals it in more tightly, and then when it does sprout forth, your efforts to drive it back from your conscious self succeed only in impressing it more vividly on your subconsciousness. There, thanks first to fear and then to the willpower with which you tried to eliminate fear, it grows abundantly under cover and gathers the strength to break out irresistibly in your conscious life. To depend upon willpower alone to rout such an enemy, therefore, is like sticking a sword in the path of an army and expecting it to cut them to pieces. Willpower and the other conscious faculties are not an army in themselves. They are merely the tools, the weapons, which, if properly wielded, are capable of putting your most formidable opponent to flight. The great power which alone can really eliminate fear is universal life energy. That is the mighty arm in whose hand your conscious weapons fit best and leap forward to clear your way to freedom and achievement. Success is yours in the ratio that you strike off the grip of fear, no matter in what department of your human activities it may be. For until you break the hold of that paralyzing force, you are stricken with a sense of impotence and inferiority, all the more deadly in that it chokes back any real hope of getting rid of it. Those who use universal life energy consistently in all their daily activities succeed in getting rid of fear, putting in its place a harmonious, relaxing and constructive power in which they know they can repose the utmost confidence because no obstacle can daunt it. To such, fear becomes a myth, a nightmare bred in the shadows of ignorance and dispelled like an evil mist before the dawn of knowledge and power brought on the wings of that universal force. In allying yourself to universal life energy, it is not to be supposed that you resign all responsibility for your other faculties. You are the medium through which that ally works, but the strength it gives you does not cancel the need for taking good care of the weapons with which you must, after all, win your fight. Reason, will, and common sense are still the instruments you have to use, and the stronger and better you make them, the more quickly and cleanly you will be able to accomplish your task. The development of your will, that cutting edge within you, comes from the exercise of it, and in its training involves also the development of your other two main conscious faculties. Reason and common sense enable you to analyze things and weigh their true value, pro and con, so that you can come to an accurate decision. When you see your way clear to adjust that decision to the great law of universal harmony, then make it and use your will to stick to it and carry it through to the end in spite of everything and everybody, including yourself. Thus you strengthen all your conscious qualities, and above all you temper and sharpen that all-important shearing edge of your will. A will properly trained in this manner gives you the mastery over your mental self and increases the power of your liberated thought also. Subconsciousness, as stated previously, now plays a dominant role in your life instead of occupying the subordinate position that it should, but your will can give you absolute authority over it. When you have acquired this control, you will no longer have to be content with the fragmentary and incomplete thoughts that your subconsciousness now yields at its own whim. You will be able to free them at once from the heavy subconscious soil of negative matter which clings to them and drags them back, so that they are promptly liberated in their entirety. Such liberated thoughts are clear, supple, strong and creative, real genii of the mind alert to carry out your bidding in the face of every difficulty. Since the whole purpose in clearing out of your system that negative element of fear is to give you undisputed control and authority over your own mind, so that you can command your thoughts at will and handle them according to your desire. The exercise for this lesson will be designed to help you in putting to the most effective use the control you thus obtain. When you have dissolved from your thought the fear which shackles it, then you can send it out to carry your message and to gather to it a double cargo of profit to bring back to you. Therefore, thought projection is one of the most valuable functions of your conscious self, and the one which, diligently practiced according to the method to be described, will make you master. Exercises. Continue as always, morning and evening, the star exercise, relaxation, silence, contact and concentration, and through the practice of them prepare yourself for the effective performance of the new exercise for this week, which is called thought projection. In order to accomplish thought projection, proceed as follows. After you have entered into silence and made the contact with universal life energy, concentrate your mind upon a certain object, preferably one of a simple and substantial nature. When you have succeeded in obtaining a clear and vivid mental image of that object, inhale slowly and deeply to the full capacity of your lungs. This inhalation should gather in it the harmonious and rhythmic momentum of your own collected inner forces, which reach the height of their power when it reaches its climax also. Then exhale quickly and project your mental concept into space, winged with the charge of energy which you have rallied for that purpose. After you have done that, do not think any longer about it, because further thought can have no influence on what you have sent out, one way or the other. If you wish to convey that thought to someone, you can do so by thinking for an instant of that person at the very peak of your inhalation, just before you project the thought into space. This quick thought establishes a connecting line that projected vibrations will follow as the line of least resistance. Repeat this exercise several times a day, choosing each time a new subject for thought projection. In this way, you will train yourself to think quickly and strongly, with an energy and decision that will make your thought produce a convincing impression. You will also achieve variety, and will develop an alertness, clarity, precision, and creative power of mind that will be invaluable to you. Science of Being Questions and Answers to Lesson 12. 1. What is self-consciousness? Self-consciousness is the quality of your mind which enables you to be conscious of all thoughts and impressions proceeding both from within you and from outside. 2. What are its distinctive qualities? Its distinctive qualities are reason, will, and common sense. 3. To what extent are we conscious of all the thoughts and impressions we receive? We are conscious of all the thoughts and impressions we receive, to only a very limited extent, as most of them pass below the range of our perception. 4. What is reason? Reason is the power to analyze things with relation to themselves and to other things also, and from that analysis to draw logical conclusions. 5. What is common sense? Common sense is the faculty to see things in their true light and to judge them as they actually are. 6. What is self-analysis? Self-analysis is the accurate perception of your own qualities and shortcomings through applying to all your actions the standard contained in the four main aspects of universal life energy, which are life, mind, truth, and love. 7. What is evil? Evil is conscious or unconscious opposition to the law of the universe. 8. What is fear? Its causes and effects. Fear is a feeling of impotence and inferiority, caused by ignorance of the thing with which you have to contend, and it produces a shrinkage and contraction of all the physical channels in your body. 9. How can fear be eliminated? Fear can be eliminated by the use of universal life energy. 10. What relation do the conscious faculties bear to fear? The relation of the conscious faculties to fear is that unless they are supported by universal life energy, Fear closes the channels for their expression and deprives you of their use to overcome adverse conditions. 11. Define willpower and its development. Willpower is the executive and sustaining power of your conscious self, and it acts as the cutting edge through which the other conscious faculties put their activities into definite expression. It is developed by exercising it. 12. What is liberated thought? The liberated thought is subconscious thought freed by the use of universal life energy from the negative which retards it.